Mike, craft beer is nosediving. Can you save it?
I can save anything.
Well, we're going to hear Mike's plan later in the episode, but first, the booze news. In beer news, the Beer Purchasers Index for April is out. This is an index where they basically poll beer buyers for restaurants, bars, retailers, and they say, are you buying more or less of a bunch of different products versus last month? Beer is way up.
Yay, beer!
Yes.
It was down the last time we covered this index.
It's been down for a very long time. Sub-premium, i.e. Busch Lights, your Natty Lights, has been up lately since inflation's basically been killing everyone. Craft beer's been hemorrhaging points, and it's been bad. But this has been a great one. This has been the best Beer Purchasers Index since 2021. So that means craft beer is expanding. There's more shelf spots, there's more tap handles. Craft beer is growing. Not craft beer is growing. Beer is growing.
Beer.
And the reason why, that I can largely think, is because seltzer is shrinking.
So people are buying less seltzer and more beer again. Seltzer is losing its... Seltzer is going the way of Zima, where it deserves to be.
I don't think it's going to go away forever, but it's shrinking back down to reality. I think, weirdly, we're seeing people just... I don't know. I just don't even know. This winter was terrible. Every bar owner I talked to, my taproom included, had a very rough winter. And then something around mid-March just kind of flipped, and it's just been getting better, and it's kind of starting to feel a little bit pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. It's not quite there for us yet, but it's feeling pre-pandemic again. And has something changed? Are people just like finally just resigned that like fucking inflation is what it is, and I'm just going to be more poor, but I'm tired of not going out? Is that just what it is? I don't know.
Could be that. You just reset your expectations. Yeah. I don't know. I got to tell you, I mean, if we're talking about feelings, I'm still stuck on sub-premium. Like, it seems hurtful to me.
To call it sub-premium?
Yeah. Yeah, you know? I mean, I don't know why you got to be hurtful, man.
Hey, a good High Life or Busch Light has its place. I'll crush some beers. I didn't come up with these designations.
I actually have I have no clue. Like, I have a lot of theories about a lot of things, but current drinking patterns over the past year or so, I don't know, man. None of it makes any sense to me, honestly.
Well, to give you an idea of like where we are numbers-wise, beer was at a 62 as a whole, which means anything over 50 means it's expanding. Over 60 means it's actually moving pretty good. Imports was 73, which is huge. So like your Modelo's, your Coronas. Craft beer was 36. Massive retraction still. So there's a lot of problems with craft, and we're going to get to it later in the episode. Mike's going to tell us how to fix it. Beer's doing well. Beer's doing
well. Okay. I mean, that means distributorships are doing well, and the huge corporations are doing well, but actual American beer made in America, is doing shit.
When you put it like that, it feels a lot worse than what the numbers say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still making stuff in China. Woo!
Maybe that is the way we fix craft beer. It's not craft beer anymore. It's just American beer.
Yeah.
This is American beer again.
Yes. Love it or get out, bitch.
Okay. In wine news, climate change is messing their stuff up. Napa Valley bribery schemes, aka MILF Mountain
scheme,
is causing issues for California wine. Overpriced bullshit is everywhere for anything that is American wine, and there's just no bright spots for West Coast American wine. However, there is a bright spot for East Coast wine. Virginia is doubling down on becoming the California of the East.
Virginia?
Yeah, Virginia.
Isn't it too hot down there even before this so-called climate change?
I didn't know you were a denier.
Yeah, absolutely. Prove it.
It is on the East Coast, but if you go inland and you start heading towards West Virginia with the mountains, we're talking more climates that are like the Pacific Northwest or even Germany, which has some banging
some pretty
wines.
high elevation.
Yes.
The western side of Virginia.
Yes. So
although in West Virginia, you just make shine.
Well, yeah, as we learned last episode, which if you haven't seen, check out. We have a wonderful expose on home distilling, and it might be legal in Ohio very soon as a result. But in Virginia, the state of Virginia is doubling down on Virginian wine. They are investing in protecting their AVAs, which is American viticulture areas, which is like Napa Valley, Sonoma County. These things are protected on a federal level. And they're also investing in Virginia wine, agritourism, and marketing of their wines. And it really could be where Virginia becomes the next California for wine. Could it
I
be
can't
soon?
say that I've ever had a Virginia wine. Are they making good wine, or are they making like Kentucky wine?
Well, I guess that's the power of marketing. And the fact that their marketing is saying that they're making good wine, I'm inclined to believe it.
I'll believe it when I drink it.
What is good anyway?
Well, sure.
I'll tell you
I
what's
guess
not
if it's
good.
sweet strawberry wine, if you think it's good, I guess it's whatever. I give up.
Well, I'll tell you what's not good. Warm spirits. Am I right?
You mean like bourbon?
Yeah.
Scotch?
I don't know. Warm beer? Ugh.
I think you're fucked. Or beer, well, no. But, sure, I mean, warm spirits.
I do
like
like
something. I sometimes like something on the rocks, but sometimes it's nice to have a good scotch neat.
I do enjoy some dark spirits neat, personally.
Yeah.
I think the water and the cold dilutes the senses and makes it doesn't really taste like you're tasting alcohol. And that's actually the case. Some new science has just come out where they have proven the fact that drinking colder alcohol makes it taste less like alcohol. Who would have guessed?
I mean, doesn't it just sort of dim your taste buds in general? Coolness. What's the rationale here?
See, we all know that when it's colder, it tastes less bad, which is the whole joke about why is Bud Light, served at freezing temperatures.
Yeah, or taste less.
Yes, taste
I mean,
less.
if it's really good and complex, you're kind of numbing some of
You're
the
muting
flavor,
the flavors,
whether
yes.
it sucks or it's good. Yeah, Coors Light you serve cold as the Rockies because who the fuck wants to taste it? Mm-hmm. But a really nice brown spirit, that's different.
Well, what they found is that it's not numbing the taste buds. It's not doing anything with your tongue. It's actually just making the ethanol molecules get closer into contact with the water molecules, and then that kind of masks the ethanol flavor. And so the same thing's happening with these other flavors too. It's not that your taste buds are getting numbed. It's that the flavors are basically getting masked by the water in which it's
tasting. But is it specific to ethanol? Are you just tasting less ethanol so it tastes less alcoholic?
That
or
is
are you
the case for
tasting less in
spirits,
general?
yes. But in general, a lot of these flavor compounds will just get masked by the water, weirdly enough. So the colder it gets, the more you taste water, which means nothing.
Cold as the Rockies, baby.
Oh, boy. In retail news, we're going to talk sparkling water. Or should I say soft drinks? Nestle, I know you're a fan of Nestle.
Oh, yeah, huge. Fuck off.
They make Perrier natural spring water, and that's just been classified through court in Pennsylvania as a soft drink, and as a result must be taxed.
Why? Because it blows me away. The tonic water, there's shit in it that, I thought water is just water. What's in it that's making it be classified as a soft drink?
The carbonation. It all comes down to the carbonation. Now, Nestle claims that their product's naturally carbonated. Superheat of magma, bullshit, calcium carbonate, something, fucking layers of dirt and earth, and it comes out carbonated and they bottle it and they don't add any carbonation.
They claim that it's as carbonated as the Perrier is straight out of the ground.
That's what they're claiming.
Yeah.
It probably has the lightest, faintest hint of effervescence, and they're claiming it's natural carbonation, and then juicing the shit out of it artificially. But,
Yeah.
It's
I
Nestle.
claim that I could kick the Rock's ass.
Nestle also,
Does that make it true?
Nestle also claims they don't use child slavery.
Well, yeah.
And we all know they do.
Listen,
So, I don't know. The whole
kids should have jobs.
Some states in America are working hard on that, aren't they? Now, the whole thing here is why we're even talking about this and getting very much waylaid. Is does carbonation and the fact this is classified as a soft drink have any impact potentially on alcohol and the fact that most drinking alcohol is also carbonated? Is there any potential downstream effects that could come from this judgment?
First of all, I think my mind drifted when you said I was getting laid. But secondly, maybe it was waylaid.
Yeah, that's what it was.
No, I don't think it does anything with. I don't think it does anything with beer. I am assuming that has to do with a state-specific statutory definition of what is a soft drink and what gets. This has to do with taxes, right? Like what's taxed and not.
So there's no potential for an unraveling and further taxes on our alcoholic beverages as a result?
No, I think it's only real estate taxes that are going to keep going up infinitely.
Well, that makes sense. Things can only go up. In cannabis news, Mike, why don't you fill us in what the hell's going on with the DEA and the executive branch?
So the executive branch has the authority to reduce marijuana from a Schedule 1 narcotic to a Schedule 3 drug. And I have no idea why this hasn't been done previously, but Biden just did it. And what that means is that it opens up the ability for medicinal research and really kind of lessens your ability to penalize it. It's progress ahead. Marijuana, the idea that it was a Schedule 1 drug, which means that it has zero potential medicinal purposes, and you can't even, it's almost impossible to get a license to study the effects of it, and also it increases the penalties of it. All of that is traceable back to Richard Nixon. The Nixon administration had a study done on marijuana because they wanted to justify clamping down on marijuana. And that had to do with the fact that what they really wanted to clamp down on was anti-Vietnam War protesters. But, we got this thing called the First Amendment, so they couldn't just arrest you for disagreeing with the Nixon administration. But they found out, they realized that a lot of protesters were also smoking weed.
Yeah.
So it was a great way to arrest people that you disagree with from a political standpoint.
You don't go after Al Capone because he's, a gangster. You go after him because of tax evasion.
You find the easy ways to do it. And the Nixon administration even had, they had weed. They had a study done on weed, and it came back and said, well, it's really not that bad for you, and it might have some good medicinal uses. And they wanted to quash that study. So, that's where it comes from, and it's kind of amazing that that's been the law ever since. That you treat marijuana like heroin.
So through some janky ass modern day political bullshit, we got archaic laws that don't actually benefit the people, but was just designed to keep those in power who probably shouldn't have been in power in the first place.
I think that describes about 60% of our laws at the moment.
Mike, why don't you describe something else that we've done together that's a little bit more fun?
You mean a book, Brett? We wrote a book. We wrote this book called Tanked in Cincinnati, Brett and I, and it just came out, so only 3 people have read it, but rave reviews from those 3 people. Mm-hmm. So you can get that. There's a link here below, and you can buy that book, and it's Cincinnati specific interviews, unlike our podcast, Bruce Guy's Happy Hour, where we interview the people that created the craft beer industry across the United States. We do something kind of similar with this book, but the stories are really universal to the industry, and they're just personal, and they're cool stories because they're interviews. So it's the stories of the people that we interview, and they're fascinating people, and we like all of them, and they've done cool stuff. Some of them have been wildly successful, and some of them have crashed and burned, and they've all worked hard and been smart.
You might laugh, you might cry. As long as you drink a beer while you're reading it, you'll definitely be drunk by the end. So you'll have fun no matter what. Our main story this week, Mike, is craft beer, which we talk about a good amount. Mm-hmm. But what the fuck, basically? How did we get to the point where we're at, where craft beer when beer is starting to apparently grow again, craft beer is still hemorrhaging shelf space, hemorrhaging new interest from younger drinkers, and losing people on the other end. Well, largely because they're aging out, but like it's lost its way. How have we gotten to this point, and then how do we fix it?
I was actually waylaid with this question, and I know how to fix Bud Light. I'm not really sure that I know how to fix craft beer, because I think that there is a systemic problem with it. We had this theory doing the podcast. We had heard repeatedly that in the 90s, craft beer started to decline and went into this death spiral because too many people were getting into the business and they were making inferior product, and it just turned people off to craft beer. We learned from Jim Koch that that's not really what happened in the 90s. That what happened was one specific interview of Jim Koch and this attack strategy of Anheuser-Busch.
It was propaganda in the 90s.
It was propaganda in the 90s. However, there was probably enough truth to make that idea that shitty beer killed good beer to have some meaning to it. And I think that that's a lot of what's happening right now. That there are too many people out there running breweries for the wrong reasons. Because the other thing you get from Jim Koch and a lot of those people that we talked to, they really had the belief, they really believed that craft beer was a cultural revolution. It was about taste, it was making a better product, but it was also...
They were fighting for something.
They were fighting for something. They were fighting for independence and quality, and there was this whole sort of anti-corporate sentiment to it. And now I don't know what it stands for.
We had a common enemy in the 80s and 90s, and even the aughts.
Yeah.
We had a common enemy, and by the time the 2010s came around, the enemy was largely defeated. Craft beer has grown at that point in time to the volume and dollar percentage share that it was probably where it is now, relatively. So the enemy was defeated, but we had nowhere to turn. So we've turned into a cultural wasteland, essentially.
Well, and to some extent, I mean, there was this blending. You had all of this, the lines got blurred. These huge corporations started to buy up craft breweries. So, you wind up with these multi-billion-dollar global corporations owning these legitimate heritage brands. And even the brands themselves, sometimes to survive and grow, veered off course. So like Boston Beer Company 2024 is probably the enemy to Jim Koch 1984.
Absolutely.
So
he's like 20% beer right now in his portfolio.
Yeah, that's
publicly owned. Yeah, that's a good point. And there's people at this point in time, 30 years into craft beer, 40 years now, where you're not getting into it for the love of the craft. It's not craft to you as in crafting something. It's craft to you as in making something, i.e. money. And the love of good beer isn't there for a lot of people anymore. It's how do I make money first and foremost? How did I get in this to make money? How am I going to make money at the end? How am I going to sell out? Because this has been happening for 30 years, so I can do it now. Which doesn't help the culture at all. I think this nostalgia abuse that craft beer has fallen into is disgusting. There's no building. You're not building anything that is going to last beyond a couple years when you just plumb the depths of nostalgia. Anytime you plumb the depths of nostalgia for sales, you're targeting a very specific person with a very specific memory. And as soon as that person ages out of buying your product, or if they try it once and don't like it, you're not getting new sales from that. There's no timelessness to nostalgia fucking drudgery. So to me, like craft beer is especially this last decade, it's like no one's building anything timeless. It's chasing trends, throwing your values out the window the second hardships come, which I get. When your ass and your house is on the line, you're just going to start brewing whatever you can to make money, but you're not building sustainable long-term culture that way.
And people used to do that a lot because they believed in their product. And, Cheers was this huge television show on TV in the 80s. And you went through this period of time where every dickhole idiot with a bit too much money was going to own a bar because that'd be fun. And so they did. They bought a bunch of bars and, they went bankrupt. I think that the same thing is happening with craft breweries, that it's the new thing that rich idiots do with their money because they think it looks easy and they're gonna do great. And that's problematic. And beyond that, I don't think that, you see the number of breweries, there are a handful of them, regionally, locally. I can name 3 or 4 that really stick to their guns in terms of a quality product and making beers that they believe in. The vast majority of them just, make whatever is hot at the time. And there's a balance. You know it as a brewery owner. You have to balance between what sells and what's quality.
And what it holds to your values.
Right.
And if you can't balance those 3 things, then you're eventually going to fail, either sooner or later. But it's not going to work.
Right. The ideal balance is that you make things that you think are high quality. You also make, some products for the idiots, because the majority of the country are idiots. But, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we got into this position. How do we fix it then? It's clear there's a cultural failing, right? That sums up what we're saying, is that craft beer has basically sold itself out, but no one's making any fucking money. So we're all losing as a result. So how the hell do we recover from this as an industry?
First of all, you've got to go back to actually caring about what you make. So I think a commitment...
Put the craft back in craft.
Put the craft back in craft. Care about the quality of your product. Is that going to be some kind of magic bullet for how you make the finances work? No. You have a market that I think is oversaturated. So, and I don't know if that's going to change. You look at the new number of brewery licenses that are being issued. I think that we're going to continue to see more and more breweries.
Yeah.
But we're going to see more breweries. As we see more breweries, more of them are going to go out of business. And there's going to be
It's going to settle in like the restaurant industry. Where,
churn and burn.
Yeah. You get the same amount of closures and openings as about every year on average.
Right. And the really good ones stay in business and pull ahead over time. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going to happen. The ones that care about quality, that also make smart business decisions, that can strike that balance between, I make really good product. I also am not losing sight of my consumer base and what's selling. Those people are going to pull ahead, and in net, I don't know what it does for sales, but
so there is no saving it. It is what it is, essentially. There is no gonna go back to the glory days where things are growing double digits every single year for 30 years straight. That will never happen again. The new reality is now, and basically you gotta elevate every single aspect of what you're doing in order to succeed, and we're not all friends anymore. That's kind of what I'm gathering, is like, we're not all in this together anymore. We are all in the same industry, but if you're a brewery, we're not friends. We're now competitors. We can be friendly, to an extent, but we're not.
Although I don't know, I think that part of the thing that made the business grow, that made it a revolution, that made it endearing, was the people that really cared about the liquid did share information and did collaborate. And I think that maybe...
But that wouldn't have lasted if they weren't all making money. Which they were at the time.
Yeah.
Everybody was growing. The closures for the last 30 years have been like double digits. For 30 years in a row, double digits of closures.
Yeah.
Which is insane how small of a fraction that is. And if that's the case, it's easy to be friends.
Right.
If we're all making money, I'll be friendly with you. But as soon as I think you're taking my lunch, I'm going to hate your ass.
Yeah, and every new brewery at this point, particularly every new really well capitalized brewery,
Yes.
they're kind of doing that. There's this line in this book, Tank and Cincinnati, you might have heard of.
Never heard of it.
We interviewed this guy named Dave Heinrich, who started Oldenburg Brewery, which is a regional brewery, but they were in multiple states. they were on the cusp of being America's first franchised brew pub chain. And then they fell apart for reasons that you can read about. But Dave had this line that I've never been able to get out of my head, that, you know, like a brew pub is basically a restaurant. He says there's 3 exit strategies for a restaurant. Arson, bankruptcy, and suicide. Which is really dim, but it does say that there's not an easy way in some businesses to just walk away rich. And with brewing, there were people that did that. You know, we talked about Ballast Point last week. Those Ballast Point people got $1 billion with a B, and those days are gone.
For every Ballast Point, there's thousands that don't make it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's the same thing with social media. For every social media influencer that's actually making money, there's millions that aren't.
Right, like us.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it.
Which one of those 3 options do you want?
I'll see you in hell.
Wish there was something we could burn.
See you guys next week.